Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some Mallorca bread. These are sweet bread rolls that are very popular in Puerto Rico and similar to a Spanish dough called ensaimada. So they're actually not very difficult to make. You can do it with the no knead method, and I've seen a couple of videos where that's been done. So that's the approach that I'm going to take. And they use egg and sugar and milk, or egg yolk, sugar, milk and such like, as well as the flour. You can use plain flour, but I'm going to use bread flour just because I like the structure that that gives. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and I have here 360 grams, which is 2 1/4 cups plus 1 tablespoon of bread flour. That's based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup. I have 60 milliliters of warm water, and I also have 125, so that's 1/4 cup, and I have 125 milliliters, half a cup of warm milk. They're at about 42 degrees, which I think is about 108, 110 degrees. I have 113 grams, 1 stick of butter which I've melted, and that's cooling down a bit. I have 40 grams of sugar, caster sugar, that's 3 tablespoons plus a teaspoon. I have the yolks from 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA, a pinch of salt, 5 milliliters, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 5 grams, 1 1/2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, though you could use normal instant yeast if you wanted to. Then I also have 42 grams, 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, which I'm going to melt later for brushing onto the dough once it's been proved. And I will also need some icing sugar to sprinkle over the top once the buns are cooked and cooled down. So I'll put that to one side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my milk into my water and give that a stir around. And I just want to test the temperature of that, because if it's too hot it will kill the yeast. No, that's fine. So then I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of sugar. That will act as a food for the yeast, and I'm going to sprinkle the active dry yeast over the top like that, and I'm going to leave that for 10 minutes for it to start activating. And once it's gone frothy, it's activated and gone frothy, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. As you can see, the yeast in the milk and water has started to froth up, so that's nice and active. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into a larger bowl, and I'm going to scrape down the bottom just to get any remaining yeast out. Like that. I'm going to add into that my melted butter, and my vanilla extract, and the sugar, and then the egg yolks as well, and my salt. And I'm simply going to whisk those together until they're all nicely combined. That's good. So the only thing remaining is to put the flour in and to mix that. And you can do this by hand, but I'm going to use my Danish dough whisk. I find that easier. And I'll I'll put the flour in, maybe half of it to start with and then the other half, and just mix that around. We want it to form a shaggy dough basically. Put the remainder in. And as I say, you can mix this with your hand, and I suppose you could do it in a stand mixer, but I prefer this Danish whisk. It makes it very easy. And then I'm going to just scrape round the sides of the bowl to get all the mixture into the middle. Like that. And I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave it in a warm place to proof until it is at least doubled in size, and that's going to take maybe up to 2 hours depending on the temperature of the room. And once it's doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step, which is simply to deflate it, roll it out and shape our Mallorca bread. So my dough has proofed and doubled in size, and it's actually taken about 1 hour and 15 minutes, but it looks quite good. So it's time to go on to roll it out and cut out our strips so that we can roll up our Mallorca bread. So this is what the dough looks like now, and I'm just going to punch the air out of it, and I'm going to tip that out onto a floured surface. And then I'm going to put some flour on that as well, on the top, so that I can manipulate it. And I want to form it into a rectangle, which is about 18 inches by 9 or 10 inches, because I want to try and cut out 8 strips from it. And I think that's good enough like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to brush over the dough with the 42 grams of melted butter. I won't use it all, but then I'll use some more later for brushing on the top. And I think that's good enough. So then what I want to do is to cut out strips which are about 1 inch in width, It doesn't matter if they're not exactly 1 inch. And then with each one, I'm going to roll it up and then I'm going to tuck the end under. I'll pick it up and put it on my tray like that, and do the same with the remainder. So with them rolled out like that, and I've put 4 on each baking tray, I'm going to cover them with a damp towel, and I'm going to allow them to prove for 50 minutes. And as that time comes to an end, I'm going to heat my oven to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and they're ready to bake. But before they bake, I will brush the tops with some more of the melted butter, and you don't need to see that. I'll put them into the oven and I'll bake them for about 15 minutes until they turn a nice golden brown on top and they rise quite nicely. Then I'll take them out of the oven and allow them to cool down, and once they've cooled down, I'll come back and show you the results, and we'll put some icing sugar over the top. I baked the Mallorca breads for 15 minutes. I've taken them out of the oven and allowed them to cool down, so they're just about cool, and this is what they look like baked. They're lovely and soft, and what I need to do now, although I don't particularly like icing sugar sprinkled on things, that's how they should be served, so that's what I'm going to do. Just sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar over the top, and you would do this just before serving really, because the icing sugar tends to dissolve over time. So that's good enough, I think, and I'll have a taste of one, and the first thing I'm going to do is shake off some of the icing sugar. And I'm just going to see if I can peel this away. It's lovely and soft and just slightly sweet. And then if your tongue hits the icing sugar, you get that extra little bit of sweetness. Very, very good. And I think, for my own personal preference, I could slice these horizontally in half and just put a little bit of cream or something in them. But they're very good as they are. You could also, instead of brushing the butter on before you roll them up, you could potentially brush some lemon, or you could sprinkle some lemon zest over them, or you could brush them with another flavouring of some sort if you wanted to. But they are very good, I have to say. It's the first time I've tried them. I'm quite impressed. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.